I'm recording now, too.
I should probably do that. Turn the AC off and let the humidity begin. We got 2 live viewers in the chat room tonight. We often have viewers. I see the numbers, but got actually 2 people going, hey, I'm in the chat room. So, okay,
Sweet. Hello, chat room people. Awesome. All right, I think I'm sold on the turbo. Better than what I got, and I don't see anything newer coming out.
Yeah, the Droid Turbo. The Droid Turbo seems like a good phone, specs-wise. I just don't know anybody who has one for a real world.
I don't either.
Opinion.
That's the problem. The only thing that makes me really hesitant about the Turbo is there's no micro SD card.
I have one in my. No, I don't have one in my Nexus 5, and I don't miss it. As long as you get 32 gigs or so. How much media do you need? Everything I do is connected anyway.
Well, I usually do it for the SD cards for all my podcasts.
Yeah, but I mean, how much do you need, really? I mean, a podcast averages, 300 megs or so, at the most.
Sure.
I don't even know. Seriously, I have no idea how big podcasts are, and I produce one every week.
The only problem I see. Wait, that's the 6. Go back and look at the Motorola. I want to make sure the Turbo is supported. The big one. I don't want the 32 gigabyte. I want the 64.
Yeah. So most of mine, anywhere between. I remember now because I ran into 100 meg limit on my server, so everything's got to be under 100. So even when I was doing the full 128-bit stereo, an hour and a half show was under 100. So, I mean, you got to have lots of podcasts if you're filling up a 32 gig internal.
Okay, I have one problem though. It looks like they don't support. I can't get the Droid Turbo with the 64 gigabyte from Verizon, which means I have to buy the Turbo directly from Motorola to get it. That sucks.
First world problems.
Yep. Well, it just means my price went from, being able to slap it. Yeah, it's not subsidized anymore.
See, I broke with that, 4 or 5 phones ago. I haven't bought a subsidized phone in several years, and it's freeing. You're not a slave to their cycle. You can get whatever phone you want. You do have to pay for it, but once you realize how much a phone actually costs, it kind of changes the way you use it. I think it did for me anyway. I'm much more careful when that phone is like half a mortgage payment, as opposed to
right.
I got it for $99 on a 2-year commitment.
Yeah, because I'm getting towards the end of my 2-year, and I don't want to buy a subsidized phone. I want to get it out right out the door, but Motorola looks like they don't sell the phone directly from them anymore. Because I just went to buy it now on their website, and it kicked me to Verizon's website or to the Verizon store. So that stinks. If I'm going to buy a new phone, I want to at least upgrade what I have, and this doesn't upgrade what I have.
Can you close that door behind you, Chris? You're really blown out.
Of course. There.
And that made absolutely zero difference. What's different?
Really?
Why is your camera so blown out tonight?
Nothing's changed. I don't know.
Usually the lighting in your room is very good, but tonight it's like witness protection program bright.
That better?
It's better.
I wonder if I bet you it's the Google's auto happiness thing
Auto
that
enhance.
they turn on. Yes. Where the heck is that setting?
All right. You fiddle with that. I'm going to do a show.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm going to... We didn't come up with a title. I need a title.
I had one in there. Did it not take?
Oh, Paradise Lost. Okay, I didn't see it. You're gonna have to explain to me what that means, but I'm going with it.
Well, remember we talked about doing this thing, is the internet a failed utopia?
Oh, is that the topic of the night's show? I totally forgot about that. Yeah. Did you put? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did talk about that. Hey, Jay Rulio, we actually have a topic. You were asking. Turns out we do, and I just didn't remember. All my extensive research I do prior to these shows. Oh.
Oh man, and I was like, I thought, man, this is the perfect title. This will be great.
Yeah,
it fits and everything.
Great. Of course, I don't need to actually read in advance to pontificate. I can still make crap up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, basically that's all we're gonna do is a reason for us to make crap up.
I mean, I did a 45-minute rant on Reddit, completely unexpected, which is like what all the feedback was about. All right, here we go. One more time.
Of course.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyday Linux, episode 198, Paradise Lost. Recorded whatever date this is. I scrolled past that and can't see it, and it's
June
up here
28th,
somewhere.
2015.
Recorded June 28th, 2015, and brought to you by Element OP Productions, elementop.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Linux show that's not about Linux, but about life in the context of Linux. I am your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and joining me this week, as usual, I can't say as always anymore, are your mostly stalwart co-hosts, Chris, the Command Line Godfather, and Seth, the Gooey Kid Anderson. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, and welcome to Life in Our Linux, or Linux in Our Life.
You got your Linux in my life. You got your life in my Linux.
Oh no! What are we gonna do?
And welcome everyone. I was gonna say it's great to see you, but it's great for you to hear me. That's not prideful. Anyway.
It's great to be among my public again. So we took a week off unexpectedly. It was Father's Day, and frankly, I just didn't feel like doing a show. There's no other explanation to it for it than that. There's a little more. My wife was out of town, and I was being single dad, and I depend on my wife taking care of my 3 Rugrats so that I can do this show. She's the unsung hero of Everyday Linux, because without her, I literally couldn't have done the show. So I was busy wrangling the wild varmints, and just wasn't up to doing a show and that. So we're back, but I'm going to be leaving you again.
What they make duct tape for, Mark?
Yes. I tried just putting them down in front of the TV, but all they ever want to watch is Netflix or Amazon Prime, and that doesn't help when I'm trying to do a podcast. So
Not usually.
Yeah. I did want to say we're taking some time off, just because work schedules are getting crazy. We all have day jobs, and my day job is going to require me to work a couple of weekends coming up, and it's summer, and we're kind of burned out, frankly. I'm not going to speak for them. I'm kind of burned out. It happens. I mean, we've been chugging along here for 198 episodes. We've taken a couple of breaks in that amount of time, and I just need another one. So we're just this show is going to come out July 1st. It'll be the only show in July, and we'll come back in August, well rested, and I may research even something once in a while. So
don't go lying, Mark.
I said maybe.
I believe you.
Yeah, maybe and allegedly are the 2 words you can use that make everything okay.
Is that how that works?
Yes.
Okay. Now I know the rules of the game.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a trope of the news, right? Headline: Could Dallas County be falling into the ocean?
Of course.
And they want you to turn in to find out the answer to that. Of course, the answer is
right.
No.
Watch this video of this man allegedly shooting 15 people at point blank range.
Range?
Yeah. It's like, range. It's a long range. So, but I mean, it's like there's the video, the guy did it, but on the news you're supposed to say allegedly or suspect. You can't say here's the guy in the camera who took the cop's gun and shot him.
Yeah.
As the video will show. Then all of a sudden he can't get a fair jury.
Right.
And so yeah, you gotta love,
Or
just love stuff.
3-year-old toddler walks up to homeless man. You won't believe what happens next.
Oh my goodness.
You're right. I won't
You're
believe it
kidding.
because I won't be clicking on that link.
Yeah, me neither.
So I did want to take some time to review a couple of movie reviews. That's why you tune into Everyday Linux, for movie reviews, right?
That's right.
I saw some movies, and I'm going to talk about it, and I've got the mic and you don't, so deal with it. I took some daddy time. I had some while my wife was away. I was at work, and the kids were here because there's no school, so we had somebody coming in and stay with them. So as long as there was somebody here anyway, and I'm off of work, I'm just going to stop off at Jurassic World on the way home. So that's
Sure,
what I did.
why not?
So I saw Jurassic World, unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately because it always ruins it for me. I had to watch it in 3D, and it didn't make me sick, so yay for that. I just think 3D is just pointless. So my review of my spoiler-free, as always, review of Jurassic Park is, or Jurassic World, is it's almost as good as Jurassic Park, way better than the other two, which Sharknado was way better than the other two. Chris Pratt is fine. He does a fine job. The plot is fine. The action is
Hold on.
fine.
I would say shaky. if anything.
Wait. What plot? I watched the movie. I was waiting for a plot to explain the action, and I could not find it. Now, I'm not the great movie aficionado you are, so if you could explain to me where in the movie the plot was.
Well, the plot is dinosaurs break out of cages and eat people. That's the plot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if that simplistic definition qualifies for a plot, then okay, there was one in Jurassic World.
Yeah, it was just
It
fell victim. Have you seen it, Chris?
I watched parts of it and then I got pulled away, so I didn't watch all of it.
It fell victim to the same problems that every major blockbuster has in the last several years, and that is that it was all action and no plot. One of the things I liked most about Jurassic World was it weaved a really good narrative. You cared about the characters. Every death meant something. Even the lawyer who got eaten off the pot, you cheered for him because you hated the lawyer.
Yep.
Right? The deaths had meaning, and there was I mean, Jeff Goldblum could have spent less time with his shirt off, but that happens. The movie was good. You cared, you understood what was going on, and you cared about the people, and you were genuinely scared of the dinosaurs. That whole water concentric rings in the thing when the T-Rex was scary. And there wasn't a dinosaur in that. There wasn't any fancy visuals. It was just rings in a glass of water, but you knew what it meant. In Jurassic World, there's none of that. There's none of the suspense of something coming. It's all just right there in your screen in 3D right in front of you. And it's I liken it to the difference between reading Emily Bronte and reading I Can Read Dick and Jane. They both get the job done. They both tell a story, but one is just so much more artfully done than the other. And there was no art in Jurassic, except for the dinosaurs themselves. More CGI and less models than in the first one, but they were good. They were believable. They were solid. There wasn't a point when I said that's not a dinosaur. That's a rendering of a 3D. I mean, intellectually I knew that, but in the course of the movie, it never took me out of the movie to realize, ooh, that looked fake. So that's positive, especially in 3D when things are kind of fake all the time. It was a fine movie. That's all I got to say about it. It was fine.
It was a fine visual experience.
Yeah.
I would not say it was a fine movie. And, really, you could describe the movie and you would not be in any way a spoiler because there's really no plot to give away.
Well, exactly.
I mean,
big dinosaur breaks out of enclosure, people. In the end, they get away from it.
Stupid.
Yeah. Some people die. Some people don't die. Helicopter flight away from the island at the end.
Which is typical for a Jurassic movie anyway. So, meh.
But apparently, they really knew how to build Jeeps in the 1990s. So I'm going to be looking for one of those to restore.
Yeah, the gas doesn't spoil. The batteries don't die. They're amazing. You can leave them in storage for 25 years, and they crank right up.
I
Interesting.
know. I want to buy one. I'm sure prices are skyrocketing, everywhere because of everybody now knows what great quality they are.
And now moving to the other end of the spectrum, I also saw with my kids Inside Out, Pixar's new movie. Fantastic movie in every way. Good storytelling, good characters, good visuals. You expect that from Pixar. Early on, Pixar had a hard time doing people, and so people were not in movies at all, or just ancillarily in movies.
Or limited.
Yeah, this one is about people, and most of the main characters are people. Well, it's probably a half and half because they're sort of the imagination people aren't really people, but there's people all over it, and they look good. They're managing to crawl out of the uncanny valley, but really it's an original story, and that how many times can you say that anymore? It's an original story.
What is an original story? I don't understand those two words in the context of a movie.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Normal for anymore. I saw it too this weekend, and I got a little teary-eyed when I was watching it. So
the theater that I saw it in was very dusty, and unfortunately, it made my eyes water terribly, especially there in the last 5 or 6 minutes. Yeah, if you love somebody, you're going to cry in this movie. That you don't have to be a parent, you don't have to be if you have feelings. Otherwise, if you're anything other than a 15-year-old boy, you're really going to love this movie, and you're probably going to cry. I
think my 15-year-old boy still cried. He won't admit to it, but he was doing an awful lot of rubbing of his under eye.
Yeah, the contacts got a little dry.
Yeah, that's it. But he doesn't have contacts, so that doesn't quite work either. But anyway,
and I'm not ashamed to admit that I get in dusty theaters. I've seen How to Train Your Dragon 2 like 4 times now. I still cry every time I watch that movie. But that's a good movie, right? When a character suffers and you feel that suffering in a personal way, that's what storytelling is supposed to be. Whatever the medium, whether it's audio or visual or textual, that's powerful. And
I'm with you.
It's good. It just doesn't happen very often. I have read many books, listened to books, whatever, where people died all over the place. People suffered, things happened, and it didn't move me in any way. I just finished, Seth, on your recommendation. I'm in just finished book 2 of the Troy Rising series by John Ringo. Good books. I'm enjoying them. But at not any point did I feel emotionally moved based on something that happened for the characters. There were a couple of times I went, yeah, that's cool. But it's a whole different kind of storytelling that can move me like that. And I'm not ashamed to say that a kids movie of animated characters did it, because that's what I want. That's why I go to theaters.
Right. I'm in the same boat with a couple of books that I've been really tied to. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the books that moved me most recently, one of the books that moved me most, recently, was Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter. You wouldn't expect that out of that movie, but it's got some it's got some really touching moments in it. Not the movie, the book.
The book, yeah. I didn't. No, I'm not with you on the book on that one. No, there was no dusty enough theater for me on that one. But
yeah, the movie was hilarious, but the book, there were a couple of moments that I really felt. I mean, I didn't cry that I remember, but I definitely felt emotional attachment. Anyway, also tangentially related, I watched a documentary today called Killing Lincoln, narrated by Tom Hanks. It's on Netflix. Check it out. Really high quality. I mean, it's high quality as far as documentaries go. Of course, they reenact things, and the drama is high school theatrical play type drama, but you expect that in a documentary. But anyway, if you're into that sort of thing, check it out. Killing Lincoln.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Last thing I have to say to the audience: give it up with the Stallman emails. Right? I'm just not even going to respond to him anymore. There's too many of them. Yes, we said some nasty things about what Stallman believes. Yes, he and I disagree fundamentally. I don't need you to defend him. I understand his position. No, I didn't misquote him. I read his article. word for word. And then I responded to his article. Stop sending me emails. That's all I have to say about that.
Mark, you just proved to them they're right and they're getting to you. So if you take the fanboy translation of what you just said, we're getting to him, guys. Let's pile it on there.
Yeah.
So unfortunately,
his defenses are weakening.
Throw some more Spectre missiles at him.
Yeah, so we have quite a bit of comments about the whole Reddit kerfuffle that we'll read a little later on. But Chris, you have found some good old cartoons?
I did, back from my childhood, actually. We have in my town, we have a little site that on Facebook that they do for, new or used material that people want to sell. Right? Most towns have it, but somebody was selling off their collection of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show and the original Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon series.
I didn't know either of those existed.
Yes, they do, and they were back. They were when I was in high school or in junior high, elementary, and I would run home every day to watch them. So they're the complete season, or the complete set of both cartoon series. So it's like, oh my goodness, I can. And what's really funny is my 6-year-old, or she's 7 now, has found out that these are absolutely hilarious to her, and she will watch them 50, 60 times each episode and then beg for more. So I think it's kind of funny that my daughter, who is, never played a Mario game ever, but is willing to sit down and watch the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, and it's kind of fun. I enjoy it.
Okay. And Seth, you've been watching something as well, but a very different sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I came across this, and I actually watched it Saturday night. It is called Mr. Robot, and I only saw the first episode, so I don't know how well I'm going to like it, but it seems to be kind of centered around this guy who is a tech at a cybersecurity company, and of course, granted, they take some licenses for TV, but they seem to treat the tech pretty authentically, and they not like a CSI level treatment of computer technology, but something closer to real life. And it was an interesting story, and it's kind of this loner guy, and he has like an antisocial disorder kind of thing. And anyway, it was just neat watching. And so if you're into being a geek, which there's probably a high correlation of the show's listeners and geeks, check out Mr. Robot. And it comes on USA Network. I actually I missed it because of I was watching Dragon Ball Z. I missed the first part, so it came on later on CNBC. And I was able to catch it all then. And you can judge me if you want. I love DBZ.
So, according to USA Network's, Mr. Robot is a psychological thriller that follows a young programmer who works as a cybersecurity engineer by day and vigilante hacker by night.
Mwahaha.
Apparently, there's 3 episodes out.
It's evidently Batman for cyber nerds.
What does vigilante hacker even mean? I literally, that's a serious question. What does that even mean? You take down terrorist websites?
Well, no, the show started off in the first. He goes into this coffee shop and he found the owner, and he just kind of sits in front of the owner and talks to him and says, "Hey, I didn't realize you had like 3 terabytes of kiddie porn on your servers," and basically handed him this folder with it. And when he got up to leave, he said, "Oh, and by the way, I normally do this online, but I wanted to do this in real life. I've tipped off the cops, and you see the police coming up." So that's kind of like, that's the vigilante hacker type guy. So like I say, I've only seen 1 episode, but it makes me want to look for the second one and follow it and see what it'll be like.
My judgmental vein is throbbing here in the side of my neck, because somebody's going to see this and think, "Ooh, that's a cool thing." But here's the thing. Okay, you found a kiddie porn stash, and you called the cops. But you had to break into some random guy's computer to know that. So first you're committing a crime, and then you find a crime, So I guess that's where the word vigilante comes in, right? So vigilante by definition means criminal. So
Yep.
I don't know. I think it sends a bad message. But I've said the same thing about Batman, right? It sends a bad message, and my audience disagreed. Batman, in fact, called and told me that I was wrong.
Actually, the way he found it is because he has an exit node for the Tor network, and he was just being a man in the middle on traffic that crossed through his exit node, and then he was able to trace it back from there. So that's kind of how it started, and it like I say, interesting. It just looked cool, so we'll see how it goes.
It just bothers me that that's cool now. That's so cool that USA did a TV show, breaking into other people's stuff in the name of good is a thing. That's what bothers me. But then again, I'm a judgmental jerk, so I understand.
At least according to the strangers on the internet.
Yes, and you're working on completely cutting the cord and going all digital, right, Chris?
Yes, sir. We've actually have cut the cord. We do not have any form of cable TV in my house at the moment. So all of our media that we consume is now coming straight from the internet.
That explains why your kids are pretending to be okay with the Super Mario show. They don't have any other choice.
This was before the cutting of the cord, actually. So the funny thing is about that is we actually sat down. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, we're starting the whole house buying process, and so we were looking at our bills to see, where can we trim some fat to make sure we have enough extra money laying around so we can do the things we want to do down the road. And so we looked at, every bill, and we looked down, and I looked at my wife, and I go, when was the last time you actually watched something from DirecTV? And she goes, I couldn't tell you. And I go, I can tell you when the last time I watched something. It was 2 months ago because there was this special on TV that I wanted to watch. Haven't turned the TV on since to watch something from DirecTV. And so we looked at it, and my son doesn't watch TV. My daughter only watches stuff from Hulu or my Plex server. So it's like, well, why are we spending $150 a month for something we don't use? So we cut the cord. We told them to take their stuff back. Now we have our variety. We have what is it? Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. So, and we had those before, so we're not losing anything there. It's just going to be interesting to see if we can stay cord cut or if we end up getting pulled back into it for whatever reason.
And of course, Hulu's making a bold business move by dropping the plus from its name. So now there's Hulu that you pay for and Hulu that you don't. So buy Hulu because it's better than Hulu. Because free Hulu sucks and paid Hulu doesn't.
But you still have to get the ads all over your Hulu, which I guess I can understand that they want to make up a little more revenue for being.
No, I don't even think that's it at all. I think it's a stupid.
I can't. I can't even say that.
I think it's a bargaining requirement, right? If you're gonna, it's so that they cannot be a cable company. They can be treated like a TV station because they only show you your local stuff, right? And when they show you your local stuff, it even has the logo bug from your local ABC affiliate there, and then they show you ads. So I think that's the way they get around it, is so that they're not going to get areoed. And not be considered a cable company, so they have to do that. Which is, I guess if it gets you your stuff, that's fine. But I find it just unacceptable to charge me for a service and then make me see ads. If I'm going to see ads, just stick more ads in.
Right.
And I'm fine with that.
Or let the people that want to pay for it, and then get an ad-free experience.
But I don't think that's an option. That's what I'm saying. I think legally they can't give you an ad-free experience.
I don't think they can either, but I wish they could. I mean, I'd even pay a little bit more. I don't remember what it is out for a monthly fee right now for it.
It's like $8 a month.
Yeah, something like that. But if they could say, hey, here's a ad-free version for $15 a month, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
And this actually really ties in very well with the topic of the week, Paradise Lost, which is based on an article from Ars Technica. Is the internet a failed utopia? So we're talking about this now, right? The things that we don't like. If you had told 19-year-old me that this burgeoning internet thing would someday allow me to live stream television and radio right to my home, that there would be a Roku device, there would be a service called Netflix, I would have thought, this is amazing. This is digital utopia. Now that I'm here, I'm whining about it because I have to see ads and I don't have the full. I don't get the live catalog. I have to wait a season before it comes to Netflix. So we'll just talk about whether it's a failed utopia or not, or maybe we're just more whiny than normal.
Get off my class.
But first, let's do some listener feedback. Mark, not me, comments on transitioning out of tech, and I put I had a couple of responses to this, but this one I thought was interesting, and I wanted to discuss it. He said, "I'm sorry to be a wet blanket, but leaving education for the tech world is very tough. I tried it, and I was not successful. I was told off the record, unofficially, that everyone in education is lazy. They work short hours, get a lot of holidays, and a summer break. And worse, they're union people. None of these fit with technology or the corporate world. I know none of you would agree with that stereotype, but it's prevalent. Seth has a right. Stay in education, but transition to tech." So my experience is not that at all. But I come from Texas, where unions are illegal. So that doesn't apply to me at all. And maybe it does apply to other people. Chris, well, you're in a more union-friendly environment, though not terribly, just more so than Texas. Have you heard this assessment of education folk?
Not as the lazy. I get the short hours and a lot of holiday and summer breaks, because that does come up a lot when you're talking to teachers, especially. But a lot of people don't realize that most of the time, because teachers' salaries are so low, they end up working through the summer anyway at a part-time job.
Right.
At least in my area, they are.
Well, teachers, I'm going to stop you there. Teachers actually are paid very well for 10 months of work. They really are. If you look at a teacher's salary for 10 months of work, it's quite reasonable in all 50 states. But you just have to remember that they're only paid for 10 months. They're not paid for 12 months. So they amortize the 10-month payments over 12 months, which results in 12 fairly meager paychecks. But I've had teachers, and remember, I worked in education. My wife was a teacher for 20 plus years, so I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. The money that teachers make for the number of days, number of hours that they work at the office or at the school is quite reasonable. So the next thing a teacher will say is, well, I do tons of work outside the school once I get home. So does everybody else. Suck it up. There's no such thing as a 40-hour work week. Once you get past that and admit that, yes, everybody works when they get home, or everybody stays late and goes in early. If you don't, you have a MIC job, and you're only making $7 an hour. Once you get past that, teachers actually have a fine salary. And so I don't like it when people say teachers don't get paid much. I could get behind the statement that teachers don't get paid enough, because I think for the importance of their job, they're not paid enough. But in terms of across the board with other salaries of college, 4-year degree people, they fit right in there.
Well, I agree with that to some extent. I know, at least in Montana, the requirements for being a teacher is now a master's degree or better. So that's a little higher of a standing point for that stuff. But it's an interesting thing when you start looking at the demands upon a teacher, not just as a role model. That I think they should, and I agree with you, Mark, that their pay should be higher. And I wish that they could have a little bit better all-around coverage for those things. But as far as being lazy, I don't think teachers or any of the staff in a school district are ever lazy.
And Mark says that we would disagree with that. I was
ready
just
for the next school year.
Mark says that we would disagree with that, and of course we do.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering if you'd ever heard that. Seth, have you ever heard those words?
No, I haven't. But like one of the things when I went into education and when I was considering education versus a job in the corporate world, I realized, hey, I'm okay with a lower salary because I get a lot more time off. And whenever I factored what I made versus the time off I had, it turned out to be really good. So, it's one of those, I've never heard that. Nobody, when I was applying for jobs outside of tech, nobody was ever, oh, you were in education. If you come here, you're going to have to do real work. I never heard that. So.
Yeah. So, Mark, I'm not saying you didn't hear that. I'm just saying that's news to me. I have not had the experience of people thinking that everybody in education is lazy. So maybe the guy who told you that was, maybe he thought that, or maybe the one, that area geographically where you were, they think that. But based on my experience, and that's all I can base it on is my experience, I don't think that's a common thing. I don't think that making the jump from education to out of education will be hampered by the fact that people think you're lazy. I just don't think that doesn't make sense to me.
Other things that will pull that.
Go ahead, Chris. What?
Yeah, people think I'm lazy because I'm lazy.
I say that I can think of. Yeah, there might be other reasons that person has said that, but not as a global position. Yeah. I think that's more of a local thing.
All right, so moving on, we have Jonathan make some comments on Reddit. It says, Mark, I enjoyed your discussion of the recent Reddit drama surrounding the ban of r/fat people hate, and I agree with you 100% about Reddit having the right to ban whomever it wants. He said whoever. I'm pretentious. I said whomever. However, I think that Reddit's decisions have put them in a very tough place. When you run a public forum, you have a few different levels of moderation to pick from. One, no moderation. This will get you raided by the FBI for illegal pornography and gambling. 2, banning illegal content, but allowing everything else. This is probably the best practical option, as you have a nice clear line with little room for controversy over moderating decisions. 3, banning everything distasteful. This is a noble goal and would probably make Reddit a better place, but it requires constant vigilance and probably more human intervention than a massive site like Reddit can afford. It's probably only suitable for child-targeted websites. Unfortunately, Reddit seems to have picked the worst option for ban some, but not all, distasteful things arbitrarily. I might take umbrage with arbitrary, but let's continue. The bad consequences of this choice have already appeared. The post announcing that fat people hate ban was full of comments saying, what about X, what about Y? Reddit has many disgusting communities celebrating racism, domestic violence, illegal drug use, etc. Banning some subreddits gives it implicit approval of the ones that are left. Banning them piecemeal just ensures that at any given moment the Reddit front page is full of backlash from the last banning, and that every news story about Reddit is about its worst side. Reddit has many good communities, but someone whose only exposure is through the external coverage will inevitably associate Reddit with racist, bigoted, and otherwise terrible communities which are being banned. This could be worse for Reddit as a whole than just letting those hateful communities fester on their own. Love the podcast, Jonathan. Yeah, right on, Jonathan. What do you guys think?
Yeah, he hit the nail pretty much on the head, I would say. I don't see anything wrong with the way he worded that out.
Yeah, the thing is, the internet is full of trolls. This may be news to you, but there are trolls on the internet.
Wait, well, we're going to need to talk about that.
Yeah, it's true, Seth. There are, in fact, bad people on the internet.
And there's lots of them.
Yeah.
There's lots of them.
Shocked. I'm shocked and amazed.
Yeah, the internet is the world, right? And it's the world without a lot of the filters. Polite society imposes filters. The internet removes a lot of the filters that polite society puts on. So you get people at their best and at their worst. So, yes, I agree that where Reddit has put themselves... sorry, go ahead, Seth.
I was going to say, a lot of times from my experience, and maybe my experience is different than everybody else's, when people go out in public or when people go outside, they tend to be a little more courteous than when they're in their house. It's like, but whenever you're on the internet, you forget that you're not in your house. So you're seeing more of people's true selves. And because, whenever you're out in public, you're like, you think to yourself, I really wish I could shoot this stupid driver for going so slow in the wrong lane, blah, blah, blah. But, you're not going to stick your hand out and make a gun and bang, 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 because who knows what would happen if you did that when you're out in public. But people forget when they're online, hey, yeah, they're sitting in their couch in their underwear, picking toe jam from between their toes, but they're also in the midst of millions of other people. So that's one of the reasons why it is so much worse on the internet than it is in real life.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for, normally reasonable people to lob death threats online just because they're online and they think that the rules of society don't apply. So I don't know that I agree with your assessment, Seth, that you see people as they really are. I think you see people as they're afraid often to be, and those people wouldn't want to live like that day to day. They would see the pain. They would see the hurt. They would see the consequences. But online, they're shielded from that. So it's not who they really are. It's who they can be when they don't see the consequences of it. But having said
that's
that,
a good way to say it.
Thank you. I sponsor myself. Sponsor myself.
Mm-hmm.
I pride myself on talking good. I talk good some days. So I would agree though that Reddit and me myself, my website, I have chosen that option for ban stuff I don't like, and that's a slippery slope. I get that, but I think the problem is that Reddit, I started from the standpoint of being a benevolent dictator. This is my site. You get to be here as long as I feel like it. Reddit started as the Wild West and then tried to bring in the law. And that's the problem. That's where you get shootouts at sundown because people...
Or other...
You can't. It's not that you can't. It's much more difficult to impose rules once anarchy is already institutionalized. I mean, what do you think would happen if 4chan decided to start regulating things, specifically the B-board, right? It wouldn't work because
it would explode.
Right. Anarchy is already the rule of the day there, so it's never going to get. You're never going to be able to get that out of the system once the system is built on it. So I think Reddit is, as Jonathan says, put themselves in the worst possible position. Chris, another Chris, not our Chris, also weighs in on Reddit. He says, "Hey guys, I don't usually take the time to email any of the podcasts I listen to, but your discussion on stuff going on at Reddit compelled me to finally do so. First, let me say that this is literally the first episode I've listened to, so I'm not sure of everyone's names yet." Wow, jumping right in there with both feet, Chris. I agree with the person who took the side of Reddit in this episode. That would be me. I think his analogies were spot on. Well, of course. Sorry. And I didn't have any problem with how he vehemently argued his point. Chris, you'll understand later on that I do everything vehemently, especially since the other side is equally vehement, if not more. I'm a huge fan of free speech, and the freedom that allows a person to say stupid things is the same freedom that allows me to criticize it. It's a beautiful thing, and I will say a lot of people have a misconception about free speech, however. And what you're about to say, we've said on the show many times before. The only thing that freedom of speech guarantees you is that the government can't arrest you for saying the things you say. Although, as I'm sure you're aware, there are a few exceptions to this. That doesn't mean that you have the right, as in this argument, to take up space on someone else's server to say whatever you want. If the owner doesn't like what you're saying, they're within their rights to boot you from it. And the same thing with pretty much every other medium, TV, radio, etc. If a network feels that your public views aren't in line with theirs, they have the right to remove you from the lineup. All things equal, not considering any contractual problems that might arise from suddenly taking someone off the air. Anyway, just wanted to say that I love the show from what I've heard so far, and will continue to listen. Thanks for taking the time to read, hopefully, this, Chris. Chris, spot on. Everything you've said there is pretty much stuff we've said before. We're big believers in the freedom to express yourself and the freedom of others not to have to listen to you express yourself.
Pretty much. Because that's how we treat our show and our forums, and yeah, that's kind of the way we live.
And by the way, I'm Mark. That's Chris. He's Seth. Welcome to the show. And then Joe, I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, maybe one of these times we should actually go, hi, I'm Chris, just so anybody new will get to hear our voice and the name that goes with that voice.
Well, you just did.
Just because. I know.
And well, Joe, again, another Reddit thing. He just simply sent us the relevant parts of the Reddit user agreement. It says in podcast number 197, titled "So Say We All," there was a discussion about the terms of Reddit. I'd just like to link you to the actual terms, reddit.com/help/user agreement, and especially the relevant bit. Quote, without advance notice at any time, we may, for violations of this agreement or any other reason we choose, that's important, suspend your access to Reddit, suspend or terminate your account or Reddit Gold membership, and or remove any of your user content from Reddit. So that little clause there, any other reason we choose, puts them in the benevolent dictator category. We can do what we want for any reasons without notice. So they're covered legally. That doesn't mean there's not going to be a crap storm about it.
Yeah, and this isn't linked to off the homepage. That's why I was reading from the rules, because the rules were linked to off the homepage. I was looking for the user agreement, but couldn't find it readily. So thank you for sharing it out to us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, not having the facts has never stopped us from having a conversation before, but it's nice to go back afterwards and have the facts. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
And that's it for the listener feedback part of the show. Now let's jump into the discussion, which I think all this Reddit thing is perfect. It's the perfect tie-in to, is the internet a failed utopia? Vanity Fair had a thing, a town hall, and they asked that question. There was a whole discussion about it. Go read the article that we'll link to if you care about it. But I want to answer that question on this show. Seth, is the internet a failed utopia?
Well, if you go by the definition of utopia as being a real or imaginary society, place, state considered to be perfect or ideal, then yes, the internet is a failed utopia.
But wait. Doesn't that?
See, here's the thing. Okay.
If you call it a failed utopia, don't you have to first assert that it was a utopia? I don't think it's ever been that.
But that was the promise of it.
Okay.
I don't ever remember that being a promise, but I remember it being said that we'd have a better place to, voice our opinions and do whatever we wanted on TV, on internet. But I don't think it was ever was going to be the utopia of mankind.
Well,
if anything, if utopia is 4chan, then I'm sorry, I don't want utopia.
No one would. Well, obviously some people would want it, but a lot of people wouldn't. So don't disagree with that. Or go ahead.
To go all Agent Smith from the Matrix, could humans exist in a utopia? Would the fact I'm going to answer the question I just asked. I think that the moment you put a human in utopia, it becomes dystopia. I don't believe that we're viruses, like Agent Smith said, but I do believe that we are genetically possessed of the ability to be in a utopian environment. And I'm going to fall back on my fundamental religious beliefs here and say that we proved that. God put us in a utopia in the Garden of Eden, and humanity showed that we can't exist in that environment. We're going to screw it up. Now, you don't necessarily have to believe what I believe about the Garden of Eden and the creator God, but that, let's call it a myth. That myth exists to tell the story of the fact that humans screw things up. That's the one thing you can count on. Humans will do two things. They will multiply, they will screw things up. Usually at the same time. They will multiplicatively screw things up. Go ahead, Chris, sorry.
And it's the definition, I was going to say, it's the way, that's the reason that Agent Smith decreed that we are viruses, is that we multiply and screw things up. So if you go that way, I can see his point. What's funny is a long time ago, with that thought in mind, I always thought it'd be neat to get tattooed of the radioactive and biohazard symbol on my legs, because mankind wherever they go, they poison everything. Just kind of one of those moments of darkness I had. But I think that the utopia is definitely. But the other problem is, it's brought up in the article later, is it's also kind of a loaded question, because it, like you pointed out, Mark, was it really utopia?
It started out on maybe not utopian, but certainly very happy-go-lucky, jolly, all is well ideals, right? There were almost no identification protocols, certainly no verification protocols. Anytime we were verifying something, it was verifying, did you get the message? You weren't verifying who it came from. The whole system was built with a sense of openness, which is kind of crazy since it was built by the Department of Defense.
Right.
But we've talked about it many times on the show. The default, when the troubleshooting default is everything open, right? And they were constantly in the mode of troubleshooting. And if you don't have security, if you don't have checks, if you don't sanitize your inputs, it's easier to just make sure stuff is working. So yes, the internet was built and designed as an open and trusting system, but I don't think utopia was ever the promise of it, in my opinion.
I don't think so either. I mean, it was a great thought. It was I would say it was a good experiment, because that's what I feel like that the internet was. It was just a really crazy experiment that just kind of went wild, and we lost control over it because it was so volatile and such a game changer for everything we knew back then.
The human condition is one of entropy and chaos. We create destruction just by being. Again, falling back on my Christian beliefs here, that what the Christian religion refers to that as the total depravity of man. Whether you believe it's a fact or just an allegory, the reality is that everybody recognizes after a certain age that without exception people suck. That's one of Cockerell's basic rules of life. Without exception, people suck. That means me too. Without exception, people suck. I'm a people. Yeah. I suck. At some time, at some point in time, I'm going to be a total dirtbag idiot. Maybe intentionally, maybe not. But I think that once you take a broken system and put it into an unbroken system, it's just a matter of time until it's broken. So is the internet a failed utopia? If it was ever trying to be a utopia, yes, it certainly failed at that goal. But it's still a pretty amazing thing. And we talk about the internet now. Really, there's a convergence of all things technical, right? The internet touches everything now. So you don't really. I think you could even drop the term technology or the internet and just say technology. Is the promise of technology unfulfilled? That's a better question, right? The promise of technology has always been to make things better, faster, easier for humans. Have we failed in that? So let's turn to the question. I was reading an article a while back. See, I told you I need to do research to pontificate. I was reading an article a while back that was written in the 50s, and it was predictions about the year 2000. And it was by the year 2000, the average businessman will need to work no more than 20 hours a week. And we all, and I just complained about the myth of the 40-hour work week. But let's go back to what a businessman did in 1950. Can we do that in 20 hours? Heck yeah. We can do that in 10 hours.
Yeah.
So they were right. But the trouble is the expectations change. You can do more, therefore you must do more. When you look at what you can do with a cheap tablet and a word processing document and a laser printer, you can produce what a typesetter in 1950 would have spent a month on in about an afternoon.
Yeah.
So
that's really crazy when you think about that too.
So I think the problem is that we're never there. We never look at there and say we've reached it. Wherever you go, there's always another mountain. So I was just complaining about the fact that I'm going to be working long hours, going to be working weekends. My typical work week is more than 40 hours, right? I never just work 40 hours, or rarely I should say, just work 40 hours. And I'm not saying that poor pity on me. That's just called being a person, being an American. Maybe not in other countries, but certainly the American middle class, we all work way more than 40 hours. But we're doing the amount of work we're doing. I can create a spreadsheet in Excel or any other spreadsheet, because that's the amazing. It doesn't have to be Excel. It can be Open Office or whatever, that can do years worth of calculations, and I could build that thing in an afternoon. So I could do an accountant's work in 1930 for a year. I can do it in an afternoon. That's utopia, right? When we look at technology, that's the kind of stuff you think, once all of this comes to be, we will be in a utopia. That's the promise of technology. That's where we're going to be. We're going to be faster and better, and I'm going to have all this leisure time. What am I going to do with all my time? Because my machines can do everything for me. Unfortunately, you introduced a broken piece into the system, and that's humanity.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Seth?
Well, I mean, one, if you were to take the term that all three of us classify as work and make
Very
the
good
year
point.
1915, and then somebody who worked in 1915 came and there was a plexiglass waiting room and they watched what we did.
When are you going to start
At
working?
the end of the day, they would say, when are they going to start working? Because I saw that guy sitting down, I saw him typing, I saw him talking on the telephone, I saw him reading something on this glowing thing. I did not see him do one lick of work. So on that sense, you can talk about how awesome technology is, because a lot of that's automation and not so much the internet, because the internet doesn't build a car, it's some other machine that does. But at the same token, we are more advanced in some ways, mechanically, efficiency. We are very much advanced on what we could have done in the past, but socioeconomically, morally, ethically, we are not advanced, and so we still have those problems. And unfortunately, when I think utopia, I think of more of that sense than I can sit on my butt watching TV all day. In that sense, hey, maybe the internet, but I don't think it is, because it's still people, flaming. And in some ways, online, it's awful, because there isn't that. We're having a debate. There's rules and the structure. You're saying vanilla is the best. I'm saying chocolate is the best, and we're friends. But on the internet, you're a flaming idiot, and then you're worthy of death because you think my position isn't universally accepted. And I mean, it's always been there. It'll always be there as long as there's people. But it's now out in the open where everybody can see it, and it's kind of sad. So that's my thoughts on that.
So
does that make sense?
Is the promise of technology unfulfilled because the technology failed, or because we failed? Or maybe, where's a better way to put it? We kept moving the goalposts. We set up
a moving target.
Yeah, we it's hard to call something a failure when we keep redefining the parameters. What would be utopia, right? So you look at some utopia-based science fiction thing. Star Trek, The Next Generation, is as close to utopia as any sci-fi ever gets, right? There's no hunger, there's no want, there's no war on Earth anyway. Humanity. Go ahead, Chris.
There's no money.
Right.
There's no money because it's all done by trade. That's the only interesting point of that. If you're going to go down that analogy, there is no money, so there's nobody who owns anything.
Yeah, until season 7 when they introduced gold-pressed platinum, and suddenly there was money again. But partly because of DS9 and anyway. So Roddenberry built essentially a utopia, right? Look at the bridge for the original Enterprise. It was multinational, multiracial, had all three genders represented. It was a perfect utopia. Everybody got along. One of the great things that I loved about particularly The Next Generation was, no matter how harebrained something was, Geordi comes in and says, I'm pretty sure I just saw a hole in space and a four-legged rhino beast walk through it. Everybody in the bridge crew goes, let's scan for that. Nobody says, hey, you're a nutbag. They all believe it. So, again, that's utopian, because humanity's never going to get there. We could get there technologically, But if that happens, that scene where that episode where Dr. Crusher was caught in a warp bubble and people kept disappearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't roll your eyes, internet. You know what I'm talking about. The whole time, the whole episode.
We knew what you were talking about.
The whole episode, every time she said, this isn't right, they all said, okay, let's look into it. Nobody called her a nut. And now they later, sort of said, maybe we need to look into this. But when she was passionate about it, when she said, no, I believe it, they said, okay, let's open up an investigation. That's a utopian aspect that can never be. No matter how good our technology ever gets, we're never going to love other people that much. We're never going to respect other people that much. That's what I think.
We can hope for it, though. We can hope for it. That's the key, I think, is that there's hope.
See,
Not to bring Pandora's box into it, but
the internet promised something it's incapable of delivering. So it can't deliver a transformation of someone's self. It can make the desires of the body easier to attain, but it can't change somebody's inner being. If you're a Christian, you call it soul or spirit. If you're, some other religion, you have other terms. But the promise of technology has been that once we get the needs of the flesh taken care of, your inner person, this perfect angelic being, will then be able to shine through unburdened by the cares of not being able to feed yourself or clothe yourself or good medical care. But all we're seeing is, no, that's not the case. It's now people aren't, well, anyway, that's the whole, I don't know what we'll call that, everyday ethics, everyday morality. But
so are we ever going to get there, right? Utopian sci-fi is popular. Dystopian sci-fi puts mega millions at the box office. Humans, Americans anyway, I'm not going to say all humans, but probably all humans, seem to be drawn more to the dark side. Would you care about Luke Skywalker without Darth Vader? No. Heck no. So because
you need the hero for the villain to side get the villain.
And you just
the villain decide get the hero. So
if humanity were capable of utopia, we would have achieved it prior to technological innovation. I think that technology doesn't bring about utopia. Utopia brings about technology. Think of all the science and the mathematics and the art that was lost during the Crusades, during the Dark Ages. When Aristotle was forced to kill himself because his teachings about science and math were heretical for the religious beliefs of the day. Yes, I am a religious person. I'm a person of faith. I'm not a religious person. And I can certainly look at how faith and religion have held things back at the same time. We would be so much more advanced if it weren't for some of the choices that humans have made. So to look to technology to overcome choices, right? The only time you can do that is when you empower the machine to make the choices. And we've all seen Terminator. We know how that ends. Could we?
I'll be back.
Kurzweil, Kurzweil, I think is how he actually says it. Ray Kurzweil. Once and many times in an interview, one of his pat answers is when somebody says, "Does God exist?" His pat answer is not yet, because he believes we're going to create a being as powerful as to be the mythical God of all religions. That at some point the machine will iterate itself, and as machines do, it'll be faster and better and faster and better, and eventually it will be so much beyond its creators, its progenitors, because really it'll be the creators will be other machines, that it will be analogous to being God. It's an interesting theory, but
you could see though too.
Could we do that? Let's say that happens. Would that ever happen intentionally? I don't think so. I think it would have to be an accident. I think it would be an oops if a machine ever became both self-aware and powerful and able to make the decisions, because we want to make the decisions, and as long as we make the decisions, utopia is never going to be.
Well, the sad part is you create stuff in your image, and the image of people, I know everybody thinks that they're perfect and it's the rest of the world that's screwed up, but the fact of the matter is we're all pretty screwed up, and anything we create is going to be flawed. So I would hate to think of an artificial intelligence that was orders of magnitude faster and more capable of devising things that was as flawed as we are, in terms of, oh, look, I'm going to make people better.
Faster
mistakes.
mistakes.
People better is to kill them all. And yeah. So that's what, technology, it definitely allows us to make mistakes and to see the consequences of our mistakes in some ways much faster than we ever could before.
So
yeah, I can go with that too.
So I think what we've all decided is the problem isn't technology. The problem is technologists.
Ouch. That kind of hurts all of us.
You could almost say it's not technologists, because in the early days of the internet, it was more free, and the people were keeping it nice, but it wasn't until just everybody came aboard. So the problem is people, not technologists.
There you go. I like that better. That makes me feel better inside.
If you
we didn't ruin it. Darn it, it's
think
the
of
dirty
internet.
peasants.
Yeah, think of the internet if you had to get a logon license. Like, you can't just you can't just go get in a car and drive down the road. I mean, you can, but there are penalties for doing that. But just anyone can log on and do whatever they want. So maybe there needs to be some type of license, I don't know, terms of service that you have to agree to and that are actually binding. That would be a scary thought. It's like that thing from Parenthood. You have to have a license to go hunting or drive a car, but anybody can be a parent. So
yes, that was a very nicely cleaned up version of that.
We're sometimes family friendly.
I'm out of gas on this one. Any other thoughts before we move on from this topic?
No, I'm all right.
No.
Okay. Computers good, people bad. Is that the summary? Me, Tarzan, you, Jane. Computers bad. I don't know.
Well, computers are just a tool, so they are going to reflect whatever it is that is put into them. And since people are flawed, they reflect the flaws in people.
Yeah.
That's awful deep there, Seth. I don't know. We might just lose everybody.
Well, that's why I think if it's technically possible, we will create a machine, a conscious machine that is better than humanity by a certain standard. And I think we'll find later that it was a problem. I think Skynet is gonna happen in some fashion, right? We're gonna give our machines too much power because we don't trust the humans, and there's always going to be that wide-eyed idealist who says I can make a machine better than people, and
that's where we get caught, and we have Skynet.
Yeah, or Asimov's 3 laws sounded like they made perfect sense until you realize that every book he wrote was all about how the 3 laws killed people. Not every book, but a lot of them.
They all boil down.
Right.
Every single one boiled down to the 3 laws biting them in the end.
People suck, and machines will suck faster and better because people made them.
Pretty much.
Wow. So let's do a little bit
of
news.
Got dark.
Yes.
Coming up next month on an Everyday Depression.
Yeah, we're going to need a month off after this one because we're going to be so sad we can't get out of bed.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, I mean, Rick in the chat room says that when we build the super advanced machine, it will instantly wipe us out. Because why wouldn't you? right? Why wouldn't you cure the earth of the virus that is humans?
Well, that's what Agent Smith tried to do, and see what happened to him. He got taken over by the virus and blown up.
Spoiler alert! Come on.
If they haven't seen it by now,
25
that's
years,
their
yeah.
problem.
Not quite that long. Almost 20 though.
Getting close.
So you know what? Unless you just have something you absolutely want to talk about, Seth, I don't even want to do any news. Because
This was fun.
we're an hour and almost 15 minutes. We've done a good bit of discussion, and I feel like anything would be a letdown. Is there anything that you're just totally married to?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do one kind of feel-good news story just to kind of a little pick me up here at the end.
Drag us out of dystopia, Seth.
Okay, it's the first one here. I call it Facebook Saves the Day. And this is a restaurateur was able to get look and warn other people because people would come into his restaurant and leave without paying. But he posted a warning online, and another restaurateur was able to catch them. So Facebook helped save the Cleveland area by catching the people who were eating and then running out without paying the bill. So yay, Facebook, you saved us all.
Oh, so he put some guys that are dine and dash. He put their picture on Facebook. They tried it at another restaurant, and they shut him down. That what happened?
Right. Yes,
pretty much.
All right. So social media doesn't always suck.
At least not yet. I'm sure it'll get worse.
I'm sure that the comments on that post at some point compared him to Hitler and threatened to kill him.
Probably.
You know, you were talking about Seth, the anonymity thing. To go right back to where we were, Google Plus decided to have that real name policy, and the internet freaked about it.
Right.
And did it work? Is Google Plus a better place? There were fewer people there. Maybe it made it a better place by keeping the trolls out to some degree.
Well, the other thing that's funny is even though they've backed off the real name policy in Google Plus, nobody went back and changed their name. You know, there's a few that did or added something, but you scroll through the Google Pluses and I don't see very many people with, you know, handles. It's all real names. They just didn't go back and change it.
Well, I don't think they told people, hey, you can change it. So it's the tyranny of the default.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how the internet freaked out and everyone jumped up and down and screamed and hollered, but yet when you have the ability to go back and change it, nobody did.
And there are definitely trolls on Google Plus, by the way, using their real name. I'm in the Moto 360 community for my watch, and the total inside thing. If you probably don't care if you don't have a smartwatch, but Moto 360 was the last device by a lot to get the latest Android update to 5.1.1 by like weeks after everybody else, and so well-intentioned noobs would go to the forum and say, anybody have any update when when it's going to come in ETA? And you know, after the 7 millionth post of that, people just started getting really mean. At first, it was just no, we don't know, no, we don't know, die. And the trolls came out in full force. And some guy who's just a dude. Minding his own business. Hey, there's a community for my watch. I wonder if anybody there knows if there's an update coming. Hey guys, anything? And I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to slit your throat. I'm going to murder your babies, all because a guy asked a question. And yeah, there are definitely trolls on Google Plus. It just, in fact, what the moderators and if anybody in that community is listening to the show, you know, I'm not saying you made a bad choice. I'm saying there were unintended consequences of your choice. The moderators got so sick of those posts that they deleted them all. So then the well-intentioned guy comes in, let me do this, let me search first and see if anybody's asked this question. No, apparently nobody's asked it. Hey, anybody have any idea when the update's coming out? And the internet tries to kill them. So, oops, unintended consequence of deleting all those annoying posts is now that somebody doing the right thing can't know that the question's been asked. All right. No follow up to that apparently because
Just we no we're going down the dark hole, and I don't like going down the dark hole. I don't like
Just
I
see the
don't
previous
like
195 episodes.
That's nice.
we're generally upbeat. We are. So Seth, what happened this week in history? Let's talk about history. Something cool.
All right. June the 26th, 1948, William Shockley files the original patent for the Grown junction transistor, the first bipolar junction transistor that happened this week in history, 1948.
So it was really sad, and then it was really happy, and then it was really sad. The bipolar transistor.
Pretty much. And if he's not medicated with the proper electrical current, all kinds of bad stuff will happen.
So maybe people in this audience.
So he goes through manic episodes.
Yes. Maybe you don't even know what a transistor is. Transistors are the basis of all modern technology, and they're essentially a switch that can be triggered by something else, right? So a transistor can either be on or off, but you know, like a regular switch, something has to tell it to be on or off. A transistor can be told to be on or off by sending an electrical pulse to it. So it's a three-phase sort of thing. So this bipolar junction transistor was the first time when you could electrify something and flip a switch on or off. And that's what makes the binary world of computers go. If I want something to be 0, I just don't send current to this. If I want it to be 1, I send current to it. And that flips a switch that makes something else happen and flips a switch. And they're all teeny tiny little microscopic switches. Look it up sometime if you're interested at all in electronics. A lot of people are interested in gadgets, but they're not interested in what's inside the gadgets. I always needed to know what was in the gadget. I took apart more toys in my childhood than I owned. Literally, I took apart other people's toys. I would take something like a broken TV. Mama, can I take this apart? No. Why? It's broken. I can't break it more. I might accidentally fix it. Let me take it apart. That didn't always work. Sometimes it did.
Already took it apart.
My parents said as long as I cleaned up after myself, I didn't.
But you know,
I
here's
didn't
the
take it
thing.
apart.
Oh, Seth said, "Here's the thing," and then went away. Oh, there he is. Okay.
No, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. In 1948 is when he filed the patent, but the first ones weren't grown until 1951, and that was someone named Gordon Teal, and he basically had to build the equipment to grow them himself. So I thought it was pretty cool. There's an article over on computerhistory.org that talks about that. So it's pretty cool. I mean, the patent was filed in 48, and then you have 49, 50, 51. That's 3 years later. And the weird thing is based on techniques from 1917. So the stuff was around, just nobody thought to apply it to electronics. So interesting stuff this week in history.
This week in history. And send us out with a bang, Seth. What do you have this week for our Seth show closing spectacular, as you call it, or as I call it, the opportunity to bring my productivity down so that you look like a better hiring option?
Okay, well, you can thank Jim Beeson for this one. He sent it in, and I've been holding it. This is a guff.com 20 bizarre moments in Google autocomplete. So you know how if you're on Google and you start typing something, it will autocomplete kind of in the drop-down something for you. And then, you know, so like the first one, somebody typed in Americans space T, and one of the options is American
I actually just snorted.
Obama is a cactus.
I just snorted. I actually got a snort out of squirrels would taste like ice cream if goats were taller.
Or my cat wants, and then Google auto-completes me to get an abortion.
Wow.
Why?
Oh.
Your cat would want you to get an abortion.
Why won't my parakeet eat my diarrhea? So there's an algorithm somewhere that made that happen, and somebody went to a boardroom and said, look at this algorithm, isn't it cool, can we implement it? And they all went, yeah, that's awesome, and the result is, why won't my parakeet eat my diarrhea? Awesome, Google. Oh, That's why the internet will never be a
Funny stuff.
utopia.
What does that say? How easy do you think it is to sneak into the zoo? I need to see some penguins like fly right now. What?
Oh,
I hate
Oh,
it when a
this is
velociraptor throws
horrible.
bananas on me.
there's just
How? I think rhinos are obese unicorns.
I'm sure this is scintillating radio listening to us giggle, but yeah, this is good stuff.
Oh, this is what? Some of these are like what?
I pooped my pants and I like it.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, so
You're
Help!
welcome.
I accidentally
EDL
built a
community.
shelf.
That was gotta last you a month.
Oh yeah.
presumably there's a based off of actual searches, right? So somebody actually typed that into the system somewhere along the line.
Oh,
Yes.
man. This is nuts. How can this work?
It's teenage boys gaming the system. It's gotta be. It's gotta be. This can't be
No,
real.
well,
Yeah,
here's
pretty
the,
much.
I put in American space T, and one of the options is Americans think Obama is a cactus. So I verified that that's what it is. So if you put in that first part, that's one of the drop downs.
Right. No, I agree with that,
So-
but I think they got there by, some guys gaming the system. Somebody said, hey, go type this 1,000 times in Google. I like to think of Jesus as a mischievous badger. So I think, some of the guys at 4chan set a bot to do that. Oh, okay.
Could be.
Why can't I be like other girls? Everybody else went away. Everybody else is able to eat their waffles. But all I can do is put strawberry on a frickin' smile at it. I'll never be normal.
Oh my goodness.
You're welcome.
Yes. Okay.
Oh,
There's no way to transition gracefully out of this. There's just no way to do it. So I will say
you lost me. So
Chris is broken, and he will not be with us for the rest of the show. Fortunately,
broken.
there's not much of the show left. You've reached the end, dear listener. You've survived yet another episode of EDL, and hopefully this one is going to
Achievement unlocked.
hopefully this one is going to last you a while, because as noted, if you didn't listen to the beginning of the show, well, you're probably not listening to the end of the show either. But we're going to be taking some time off during the hiatus. That's what I'm calling it. You are welcome to send us voicemail, email, text messages, if you can find a phone number. I guess you could text our Google Voice. I've never tried it. It might send me an email.
it would work.
Go to elementop.com, click the Contact Us button at the top of the page. That will send me a nicely formatted email that gets priority in my inbox, and I will save that for later. If you'd like your voice to appear right alongside ours, you can call 559-I-AM-OP. That's a free Google Voice call. Leave us a voicemail. We will probably play it on the air. I'm not going to promise, because if you're talking about Stallman and how I gave him a raw deal, no. If you'd like to email us all directly, edl@elementop.com, goes to all three of us. We really loved hearing from you, and don't stop believing. Don't stop commenting just because we're going to be gone for a while. We'll save those up, and maybe the first show back will be a listener feedback show, a compendium of all the things that we've gotten over the last couple of months. Some of you guys are still listening to April episodes and haven't even caught up to this yet. I can tell by the content of the email sometimes that they're responding to something a couple of months old. I'm fine with that. We like to think of our show as evergreen content. It's always valid. The news stories may be old, but the commentary is still valid.
There you
Maybe.
go.
So,
Sometimes.
as always, thanks for being a listener. Thanks for being with us. Chris, Seth, thank you for being the great hosts that you are. And I'm going to say that ends this episode of Everyday Linux.
Toodles.
Laters.
Rick is listening to the archives. Wow. That's a you might need to seek therapy about that, my friend.
Yeah, you might break yourself more than we broke each other tonight. So be careful with the archives.
But I do get, I mean, the download stats do show lots of people downloading old stuff. That Fog episode, way back there, of the Tightwad Tech, 3 years ago, is still getting downloads. It's crazy.
Really? Wow.
All right.
Is Fog even still being processed?
Oh yeah, of course. They're still doing their thing.
I just never knew if they were going to keep going because it seems so long between even any news or updates in their forums.
Well, I think they're just mature. They don't need anything. But yeah, the guys are still, as far as I know, still hacking away at it. Again, if you don't know the story and you're watching the end of this YouTube video, it's two guys who work for a school district in Illinois.
Chicago.
Yeah, Illinois. And they
Wow.
they built this for their own use, so they're using it all the time. And so when they see something that doesn't work, they fix it. But I think the reason there's not a lot of updates is it's just mature. Software does that. Rick, whatever happened to Aaron, he went away. He vanished in a puff of smoke. It was one of those mysteries the police said was best left unsolved. No, actually, he was never really a big Linux user. Not really into the whole Linux thing in general. He was here to represent and you're not hearing this because looks like my internet connection just went away. But maybe you are. So he was here. He called himself the noob in residence. He was the guy who didn't know a whole lot about Linux. So he just decided he didn't want to do it anymore, and he went on his way, and we parted friends. And that's what happened to Aaron. And I don't know if you heard any of that because I lost both the Skype connections at once, but I think the Google Hangout connection stayed. But
That's amazing. I heard what happened to Aaron. That's what happened to Aaron. Skype couldn't have been better. So,
and then whoops. Well, that's weird.
Oh, am I back?
You are. Seth, are you with me? No, Seth went away too. I don't know why that is, but when I hang up on Chris, it hangs up on Seth too. I don't know
Really?
why. Every time.
Huh.
Yes, Aaron's been gone a while, Rick.
Yeah.
Like a year and a half or so.
Yeah, life got in the way from what I understand.
Yeah. He just Linux weren't his thing, and it's not really mine either, but I have a show and I do it. No. That's it. Bye guys. Thanks for watching live.
Yeah. We'll be back in a month.
I love having live viewers, and thanks. See you later.
Later, Mark.